Hey guys, Nugi here, and today's video is gonna be the meaning of life in PoE. So, in PoE there are two life sources I wanna go over today. It's the life way and it's the energy shield way. These are the two ways you can kinda build up a life pool in PoE. You can also mix them together, getting hybrid, but to start with, I'm just going to take them one by one. So, what is life? Life is something you gain through gear, through passive tree, and through levels. Every level you gain a flat amount of life. On the passive tree there's both flat and multiplicative life, like percentage life you can get. And on the gear there's even more flat life. Comparably, you have ES, which is mainly obtained through gear and your passive tree. You don't get any ES per level, so this also means that for starting a new character, it's probably better if you start with life, because it's something you already have, and there's stuff like call rings and leather belts that are easily obtainable from an early level. This is why you see people going life builds and not ES builds to start with, and as the level, some people like to add in some ES as a buffer. But for the most part, people just want pure life. And why is that? Well, to understand this, we have to look at two mechanics called status ailments and stun. So status ailments is something that is inflicted upon you if you get crit by a elemental source. Let's say you get hit by lightning damage, you get crit by lightning damage. It will then trigger a shock on you if it exceeds the shock threshold, which is around 1-2% of your life. So if you take 1-2% of your life in damage from a crit lightning, then you will have a very short duration shock. If you then take a much larger hit, a much larger percentage of your life, let's say you take 50% of your life as lightning damage, it's gonna last for several seconds. So as you can see, how it works is the more damage you take, the longer the duration, and this is going to be relative to your maximum life pool, like percentage wise, how much is actually going to go away of your life pool, the more the longer the duration as well. So the larger the damage of the hit, and then relative to your maximum life pool. This is why if you keep building this life pool, the shock duration and also freeze duration works in a similar way, or it's the same way. Those durations are going to go down to the point where a lot of the times you're just not going to get affected by them. So then there's another mechanic called stun. So stun is also a very easy mechanic to understand. If you get hit for 10% of your total life pool or less, exactly 10% of your total life pool or less, you will not get stunned. If it exceeds that at exactly 10% of your life pool, there is a 20% chance to get stunned, and then if it exceeds that up until the 50% mark, which is 50% of your life pool, if you then get hit for 50% of your life pool or above, you will always get stunned, always. So below 10% never, below or above 50% always. So why is this important to know? Like, now we can see that life is very good to have. The more you have, the less susceptible you are to both status ailments and stun. So how does that relate to energy shield? Well, energy shield, as we could see, is harder to obtain, at least in the early levels. Later on, late game, it's actually there's a potential to get even more ES than life, but as you can see, life is very good to have, because energy shield, if you stack a lot of that and you maybe go into chaos inoculation CI, your life pool gets lowered to 1, and then you're like, well, if my life pool always gets lowered to 1, there's no point in stacking more life. So then we just stack ES, and we get maybe like 10k ES, but our life pool is still gonna be 1. So the way it works is that the status ailments and stun will affect a guy who's using CI, which is, well, 1 life. It's not going to affect it as if you have 1 life, but it's going to affect you as if you had the life before CI, like speccing into that. So if you spec'd out a CI and you then had, let's say, 500 to 700 life, that's very normal, like 700 life at high level would be the number of life you would have. Let's assume you then get hit for 350 and get hit for 350 damage with 7,000 life. Well, that's 5% of your life. You never get stunned. Boom, easy. 350, who cares? 350 is only enough to like afflict you with a very, very little status ailment as well. You're only gonna get shocked for like a quarter of a second. Well then, if you then compare it to the life you would have with a CI build or with a low life build where the life pool is way smaller, like let's say the 700, the 350 all of a sudden becomes 50% of your total life. This means that you're both going to get 100% chance to stun, and then also the status element effect you're going to get on you is going to last for seconds. It's going to last for so long. It's going to be very, very painful. And with the shock, it's definitely it's very painful because it adds a debuff to you that makes you take more damage, and then you get hit again. And because you're already taking more damage, you take even more damage, and the duration is going to be longer and longer and longer. It's going to be this cascading effect where in the end you're going to be shocked for until the end of time. Don't fear though with stun. A lot of people would say, well, I get hit all the time for that amount of damage. Not sometimes with physical, sometimes with fire, cold, whatever, sometimes with chaos. Don't I get stunned all the time? One thing to note about energy shield is that whenever you do have energy shield, you have a 50% chance of avoiding a stun. So it's not gonna be you're gonna be stunned like all the time, but 50% of the time, all these hits will stun you. CI will also do another thing to you. It will make you immune to chaos damage. Chaos damage is something that will normally bypass energy shield. So let's look at it this way. Let's say you wanted to make a hybrid build maybe, where you have some life and some ES. This might be an easier option for you to get some, like a total life pool that would be bigger than you could get from going pure CI or ES or going pure life in the beginning. But it does have the drawback that chaos damage will go right past it. So that is why people would sometimes opt into just going for the energy shield. Also, another thing to consider is with going hybrid, you also have the option of going low life. If you only have one life, you cannot cut that one in half. So the low life builds are only available for the hybrid builds, where you have this buffer of energy shield that's going to shield you from the life. But if you're going a low life build, for instance, to get the benefits from that, if you don't have one of the build enabling items, be it chevrons or that other new chest, chaos damage will go straight on your life, and it's very likely you're gonna die. Say you have 400 life and you take chaos damage and it ignores your ES, you're gonna die very easily. So that's why some of those are very important. And this is also why if you are building an energy shield build, it's very nice that you're chaos immune. Simply as that. There's one more build that you could consider being the Manor shield build or the Manor build. I'm gonna go in detail about that one in a later video because it's there are some other things to consider with resources and all that. But one thing to note here is that with all hybrid builds, degen does affect hybrid builds stronger than the pure energy shield build with CI or the pure life builds because they bypass the shielding you have, the mana or the energy shield. They completely bypass that. So that's important to note that degen chaos damage over time severely affects hybrid builds. So recap: status ailment stun gets very heavily mitigated on life. All chaos damage gets completely mitigated on energy shield, and you can get a bigger total life pool on energy shield in general. And then you have the low life or the hybrid options. They're also Aegis Aurora in the hybrid part, but they suffer more from the degen because they don't have the immunity or the high life pool that will be there to protect you. So I hope you guys learned something today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video.